This is episode 5 in our series, The Unfinished Man. Lair, I wanted to start with this question, which I think is obvious. I didn't think about it until now. How are you unfinished, or are you?
Oh no, man, no. I am by far and away not unfinished. I am. Wow, that
You
question
you you mean
immediately.
you are unfinished?
I am unfinished. Yeah, and
Yes.
that
Okay.
how this is one of the ways I know that is you said it and immediately struck a truth button in me, and I could feel emotion come up.
Mm.
Yeah, like in a really good way. I'm 55 today. Um,
Oh, happy birthday
Thanks,
today!
man.
Oh
Today,
shit!
yeah, right on. Send
You
it
know,
to
I
John.
would
Yeah,
send you something, but you can't get
you
anything. I
can't
can't
get
deliver
anything
shit
now.
to
No,
you except
you know what?
wishes.
Your presence is the gift, man. Um, so yeah, so no, I am absolutely unfinished, and but it's funny because I've always had this vision of my life that it would that I would have this house with a slanted roof, kind of Frank Lloyd Wright kind of style, looking
Yeah.
mid-century modern,
Yeah.
on a hill, really close to the ocean, probably in a another country where we got to surf in the morning and come back and check and see how many books we've sold, and how the pod's doing, and a few little client work here and there.
Wait a minute. When did you have this vision?
I've been having it for years and years, and
Wow.
then I woke up last October and I recognized that 55 is a big one and 60 is not far off.
Yeah.
And so I had this vision, and I'm like, well, if not now, when I'm
Mm-mm.
75, I'm going to
Mm.
be, hopefully still kicking it, but 75, man. And so I was like, that's when we decided to move. And so I shit you not, I saw the recognition, I think, in your face when I said that, because that's exactly where I live.
Yeah, I was there, and
You were,
your roof is in fact slanted, and you are looking over the hills right into the beach. You're four
yep.
minutes drive away from the beach. And by the way, Lair, I'm not going to say where you're at because that is quote unquote blowing up the place. I'm
Blowing
not
up
going
the
to do that. I
spot, John.
apologize. I blew it up on Instagram. But listen, I'm not famous enough to blow anything up. But
No, you are
um,
you are plenty famous enough to blow up the
wait,
spot.
can
That's
I
why I
just say
wrote you. I
something real
said,
quick?
yeah.
Well, when you said that, I was like, come on, dude, whatever. Do you know how many DMs I got that were people just like you was like,
Hmm.
John, shut the fuck up. Stop talking about this place. I mean, just in general. And I was like, oh fuck, Lair had a point. I
Yeah,
thought you were
yeah.
just kind of joking. Dude, I got inundated with people saying,
Hmm.
you know, don't tell people where this is and blah. Yeah.
Mm-mm.
I'm sorry,
Yeah,
man.
yeah. It's
Well,
okay.
look, we're
Listen,
gonna
it
make
happens.
we're gonna make a few new friends.
That's exactly right. And then we'll move down the
Hmm.
road to another town that I know of that we can pack up the fams and go once it gets too overpopulated.
No,
But
it
yeah,
won't.
I'm absolutely unfinished, and I'm glad about that. Like, I like something to work on. I like the fact that I've reached this place in my life, this vision that I've had. The only difference is our house is on the opposite side of the street than the vision that I had, but manifestation is a real fucking thing.
Well,
And
I was gonna ask you, like, dude, so what you just said, the vision you had, I was like, wow, you just traced that, meaning you
yeah,
have manifested that,
yeah, yeah.
which is amazing.
Well, and if I could show, I wish I could show you. I had a journal for years that I sort of did a vision board in the front of it. Like put some pictures in. The pool looks exactly the same. It looks exactly
Wow.
like that. Yeah. And of course, I had this amount of money scrolled across the top, and I'm like, okay, that was easier than I thought. And I wish I was selling more books, but we're dropping in China this month, so
Oh, nice.
hopefully we start selling some more copies of the book. But manifestation is a real thing, and um, I feel like I'm coming into this place. It's a very strange place of I don't feel this zeal to win, beat, create faster, more, better.
Mm,
I just want to try to find the best version of myself. I want to feel what peace feels like. I want to feel what flow feels like.
hmm.
For whatever number of years I have left, because I've been fighting hard for a long time trying to overcome the pain, the trauma, and demons of my past, and so I just want to know what peace looks like. I want to
Yeah.
live in that space.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for sharing that.
Mm-hmm.
I can relate to a lot of that. I wonder how much of this feeling that overlaps between you and I has to do with we're kind of in the same age bracket as we enter the afternoon of our lives,
Mm-hmm.
caring less about the bigger things, posturing,
Mm-hmm.
the scoreboard, caring
Mm-hmm.
more about moments and being grateful for what we have, and also recognizing that just because what we have may not look exactly like we want it, as far as possibly numbers, money in the bank, that kind of stuff,
Mm-hmm.
um, doesn't mean that we haven't manifested stuff that we wanted, right?
That's
So
right. That's right.
um, I've had that feeling. So right before our house burned down, um, I would come out and I would just lie on our porch. We had a private road, and there was always sun, and it was gorgeous. I would lie on the porch after an ice plunge, so I would sun dry. And man, I had feelings in my body like, wow, this is what I've always wanted growing up in LA. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it didn't look the same. I mean, Altadena was milk to me. It wasn't a city. It's like, who the fuck lives in Altadena?
Yeah. Right.
And I never thought that's right. The dream was always like entertainment, screenwriting, three
Mm-hmm.
picture deal, office on a
Right.
lot, Hollywood
Hollywood Hills.
Hills,
Yeah.
Range Rover, Porsche, that kind of thing. Very,
Mm-hmm.
very predictable. And although it didn't look like that, the feeling that I've always wanted, the safe tree, the calm, the
Mm-hmm.
regulated nervous system, the
That's right.
breeze, the sun, that was there. And that made me believe that I had manifested what I wanted. It just didn't look like exactly what I imagined in my head.
It touches on a question that I ask clients a lot when they tell me about the things that they want, the goals that they want to achieve in their lives. And I'll listen intently, and then I'll ask them, what is it that you want to feel when you have that? And more often than not, they come to the conclusion that you came to on that porch, which is like, I didn't necessarily need the Range Rover Porsche. I mean, that would have been nice, and the three picture
Yeah.
deal, awesome too. But here I have this beautiful family and this beautiful house and this beautiful neck of the woods, and I'm experiencing that feeling. Ego will tell us
Yes.
perhaps otherwise, or shortchange us and kind of go, yeah, but I didn't get that three picture deal. But you know, that feeling is what you're going for ultimately.
Yeah. And also, isn't it truth in relationships, right? Because we imagine relationships a certain way. When we're single, we picture someone
Mm-hmm.
and they look a certain way and all this. But sometimes you're in a relationship and you have this feeling, and I call it the corrective love experience, where you're like, oh, this is actually what I've always wanted. I'm just not seeing it because I'm pointing out things that,
Mm-hmm.
that are tied to something old, or
That's right.
trying to trace an old blueprint, or um, judging someone by, the color of their hair or something.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, I had a different vision of this, but when I check in with the feeling, it's like, oh wait, I'm there. Part of that problem is we're so geared to look externally and to look forward and to notice the gap for which we need to forward, rarely looking back behind us, kind of going, oh wait, look at all that I created.
Mm.
I was sitting there with a client the other day, and he's a Harvard trained economist, went to Harvard, taught at Harvard, was a partner at PwC, had made all of this money. But when he looks in his bank account, like his bank account isn't where his contemporaries are. Right. And
Right.
I
Missing a
said,
few zeros.
yeah, well, and I said, hold on a second. Let's talk
Yeah.
about let's look, because I know a little bit of the story. I said, you paid for all of your children. You had 5 children. You paid for all of your
Mm.
kids' undergrad. You paid for all of their grad. You paid for all their first cars, and you bought them all a house.
Wow.
Like
Yeah.
you, you, you use the money, and you watched your children enjoy it while you're alive,
Mhm.
right? You didn't hold it. So he wasn't looking at what he had created. He was just sort of myopically looking at the numbers and comparing himself
Mm.
to his friends, not realizing the joy that he had spread, and the abundance that he had created. He was missing it all. And he was like, holy shit. And I said, I'm no economist from Harvard, but the numbers
Yeah.
look right to me.
There's also something that happens. when you can get there as far as realizing, and listen, it doesn't mean that you stop working or stop dreaming, right?
No.
You can realize that you have manifested, and that there are things that you have or you have built that you underestimated, and that you are good, and still want other things, and still want, whatever that looks like, right? Bigger house, better relationship, whatever. And something changes in your state, I think, where you go from uh, chasing to attracting, as far as when you feel that, because if you feel like you're lacking, I think the energy you're putting out is going to flip the magnet, and you're not going to attract
That's right.
shit. If you
I think
feel
that's
that
right.
you are, you have a lot, that you are worthy, that you've done some things, and of course that you want more. It's just a very different energy.
And I think the pursuit of that is different, right? Like, and you've written way more books than I have, but I imagine my second foray into writing a book is going to be decidedly different. There's not going to be this anxious desperation that I felt writing the first one, in the hopes that it's going to be this
Yeah.
blockbuster and all that. And so when you start coming at the process, and we've heard it 1,000 times, it's a cliche, but cliches are cliches for reasons. It's like that journey becomes a different one. And I think you just do better art.
Yeah.
Your effort's just richer.
Yes.
From that perspective.
You're more potent.
That's it. And I'm not trying to prove to someone that I'm worth something. In the end result, I'm just doing. I'm doing it what I call it the intrinsic goodness of the doing.
Are you pregnant with another book idea? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah. I pitched it to my agent. And
are you feeding it? Are you excited about it?
John, I'm using you as inspiration, because I have not been feeding it enough. Like, I've written the proposal, and she wrote back and was like, change this, do this, and do that, and let's go. Let's do it. But I need to be, I need to be more in it, and I need to be at the grindstone a little bit more than I am. I always wonder, how are you as prolific as you are?
Oh, well, unlike you, I don't have back-to-back sessions. I'm fucking around, drinking coffee, riding motorcycles. But I do. But when I get into a book, man, I lose myself. When I'm writing a book, I write very fast, and it comes out of me like I'm in labor post-term. Like there's something that happened. I almost get possessed.
So you're stealing time too. Like, it's not just hours and hours of writing. There's
dude, I'm up when I'm writing
here.
a book. I'm up at 4:30 a.m. And it's not because I feel like I have to. I become obsessive. I watched interviews with directors like Quentin Tarantino, where when they're working on a project, dude, they're like a different person. Like, they go somewhere else. And I think there's also, a danger to that, especially if you have a family, and you have responsibilities in a relationship and stuff, and your dad. But dude, I'm gone, man. If I'm working on a book, I'm gone.
Well, that's
I mean,
what happened to me.
I tagged you on my. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I tagged you and I think 68 other people on a memoir that I'm writing.
Yes. Yeah.
And dude, it's only been a couple weeks. I'm 100 pages in. I had to stop writing because not enough. I'm not even in Costa Rica yet. It's like, half the book's supposed to happen in Costa Rica. So I don't have anything to write about, because I've written faster than life has given me things to write.
Jesus Christ. That's crazy. Yeah, no, when I wrote my first book, I got lost. I was up every morning at 4:30 and in the chair. Actually, I write laying down on the floor, which is weird. And
wait, do you write freehand or you're typing?
No, I'm on a computer. Just But for whatever reason, the laying down, that does it for me. And I was obsessive like that, and it was weird. When I got I got towards the end, and I realized that, like, how much Ashley and I were talking about this morning, how much writing poorly was a part of the process. And
of course,
in the beginning, I hated that, and that was what took up so much time. But towards the end, I longed for, like, bring me the shit, bring me the awful, because I knew that the path was being shown to me in the shitty writing. So anyway, it's awesome.
People who are perfectionists struggle with that. I always say you got to splatter paint, man, and you could find the image; it's going to come out. But
Mm-hmm.
don't do the color by numbers because your voice won't be good. Your
That's right.
voice won't be strong,
Mm-hmm.
and so you gotta just go off the rails in the beginning. And
Yeah.
yeah, of course it's going to be shit. And you're also your worst critic, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then you put on the second coat, and you start fixing things, and then
Mm-hmm.
something
Mm-hmm.
else happens where then you see something amazing, all that. But hey, I'm excited about your book number 2. That's amazing.
We'll see. We'll see.
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 I don't know what the topic is today, but I just want to remind you, if you're listening, this is episode 5. It's our last one,
Yep.
and I just want to say one of the highlights, and if anything else, one of my takeaways was the cross-eyed lovers.
It's a good one.
Dude, out of the blue, I'll just laugh at that. Me and Vanessa. In one of our episodes, Lair was talking about him and his wife when they met, and they were star-crossed lovers. Right? Is that the term?
That's right. That's you got it that time.
I've never heard that term before. And in my brain, I said, yeah, Vanessa and I, we had more of a slow burn. We were cross-eyed lovers. And then, of course, he was like, what the fuck is that? And then, of course, me going to the jokes,
Mm-hmm.
I don't see you. That's our problem. We don't see each other. Anyway.
It's because you're cross-eyed.
Yeah. So,
well, and then there's a straightening of the vision, all of that. But today we were supposed to talk about. We toyed around with the idea of, are you lonely?
Yeah.
As a man, we can bird dog that one, or go and do our synaptic surfing like we usually do.
No, we could do all. We could do it. We could make it a quilt. But I think especially now today, and I would say especially, I mean, as humans in general, but especially for men and young men, loneliness has become an epidemic.
I think so.
Why do you think that is? I mean, I think partially just because of the landscape, but what are other factors?
Well, I think lack of depth. Do you know, even when you're, the idea that I know for me, I can be in a room full of people and feel incredibly lonely. Because
you don't connect to them because you tend to go deeper.
Well, and I don't want to make myself out to be like, oh, you're so willing to go to depth and everybody else isn't like that. No, what I'm saying, and I mean, some of that's true. I think people want to go to depth by and large, but they're afraid to go to depth. And so there's this push-pull, there's this duality to the human male experience where it's like, I would love to go to depth. I don't know how to go to depth. I'm uncomfortable going to depth. I don't even like touching into my own feelings, but holy shit, do we really care about who's playing the fucking football game? And it's something that I said in my first book where I said, I'm really smart. I'm smart enough to understand the game of football. I'm just not fucking dumb enough to think it's actually important. How's your wife? How's your relationship with your kids, John? How's your relationship to yourself? Do you know? That to me is really interesting stuff. And so there we are, and we're talking about, I was living in Charleston, South Carolina, where, football is next to God and country. And, as I said to you in one of our other casts, I said, I'm invited in, but I'm rarely invited out. Because these men clock me. And I watch them look at me, right? And I'm not the guy they're going to invite to the barbecue or the party or the men's camp out thing. But I'm the guy they're going to call. And they do. It's uncanny. My wife laughs. They're like, oh, that guy, I'll call him when the shit hits the fan. He seems to be thinking about some shit. Because I am, but it's like, I want to know you at some depth. I don't give a shit about what fucking jersey you root for.
Yeah. Your thirst for things deeper and greater has made you like Tom Hanks talking to a volleyball on an island. basically your thirst for greater and things for meaning. I mean, but listen, it's also telling that a lot of people aren't into that, which is also, I think, kind of a problem, right? And listen, you don't have to be one or the other. You can have both. Like, I love locker room talks and dick jokes, and I love cards. I'm a gearhead. I could talk about all those things. But then you're right. If we also don't go deeper, then it's just icy. It's just too sweet.
Ask any of the people who are close to me or any of the people that we do the memes with. My humor is fucking awful, terrible. I'm a horrible human being on that side of myself. I think really bad stuff is funny. You have to have your dark humor. But it can't just be that.
Right.
To me, there has to be, so this for me is part of the epidemic. I had two friends of mine in particular after I wrote my book. Now, by no means the fact that I wrote a book does that mean that everyone that I know in my sphere now has a 240-page homework assignment. I'm not saying everyone has to read my book, but these two guys have been having problems with their relationship. And I said to him, I said, here you are, you have a world-class therapist at your fingertips, and wink, wink, and you have this book. And they both said the same thing to me. They're like, I'm not reading that book.
Hey, a world-class therapist at your fingertips can be the title of your next book.
That's right. I said, facetiously, of course. But I said to him, they said to me, I'm not reading that book. One of them said, and the other guy said something similar. He said, I've known you for 25 years. I know what's in that book. It's information that I need, but I do not want it.
Yeah.
And it sort of is telling.
It scares them. It scares them because your book is also a mirror, right? So like reading that is helpful because you're going to be better and there's tools. But then also you have to slay your dragons.
You got to go do it.
You got to go do it. Yeah.
I think this is part of the reason why men in particular can be lonely in a room full of people. Because we can, dick jokes are fun and having a few beers is great. But at the end of the day, where's the real connection with other men? And I think we're at a loss to really find that. And so I have clients who, they find it going off to retreat with men, and that's awesome. And for what it is, for the 3 to 7 days that it is, or you had that beautiful men's group that you had at your house every Sunday night from 6 to 8 or whatever it was. I think men are longing for that type of contact. They don't know how to deal with the feelings that it brings up or how to access it. And so I think we find ourselves not connected to ourselves and consequently unable to connect with others.
I find that when I have experiences with men, so whether it's one man dinner, Korean barbecue, or a group of men, or a men's retreat, or in my, what used to be my garage doing men's group, whenever I have an experience with men, I always leave feeling like, oh, I didn't know I needed that. I always, like you never leave the gym regretting it. I never leave a men's space unless it's toxic, feeling like that was a waste. As long as it's authentic.
Why don't you think Why don't you think you recognize that?
Because in my mind, it is a waste of time. Because in my mind, I've got better things to do. Because in my mind, I would rather spend time with my wife and daughter. In my mind, I'd rather, so even for me, doing the men's group and putting coffee dates or I call them mandates. Like mandates are a mandate. I put them in my calendar. I almost have to force myself, but every time we have that exchange, I never leave regretting it. I'm like, oh, I keep forgetting how much I need to have this part of my life because most of my life I didn't want men around me.
Yeah, no,
I thought it was extra.
So, do you think it kind of harkens back to that old before GPS? Anyone who grew up in our area had a dad when we were out on a car ride, got lost, and wouldn't stop for directions.
Yeah. I think men, part of it's conditioning, but I think men do create their own islands. I think men need to be around other men. I mean, at the very least, so they don't feel alone, so they don't isolate. When it comes to like suicide, men are the people that actually pull the trigger. It's not just ideation, and so especially just with what's happening these days in the world, men need other men. I think more than ever.
Well, yeah, to see that reflection, and so I guess I think it's incredibly difficult for men to ask for help in general. Certainly when it comes to things like emotionality, vulnerability, and so I wonder about that for you when you were talking about it just didn't occur to you, and I think that might be especially true because you're looked upon and seen as the resident expert. The guy who's written the books, the guy who should know.
Yeah. Well, I don't know because I've been too busy writing books. I'm the guy who hasn't. Well, I mean, I definitely do it more now, but I also feel like I fell into men's spaces through the side door, meaning I didn't go searching in 12-step programs or men's retreats. I would have never done any of that. I found men by broing down with them, lifting weights,
By
doing
broing
very
down with
kind
them.
of doing guy things in locker rooms.
Mhm.
That that's how it started, and then from there, um, was then thirsty for deeper conversations.
And you were able to find
Post
outlets in
divorce.
that.
What's that?
Okay. You were able to find outlets with other guys that were
Yeah,
willing to kind of go to depth.
yeah.
Okay. That's interesting.
What 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 do you think about age gaps? Because I think also because in my 30s, I think I would push men away, or even 20s maybe.
Mhm.
Well, actually, I think in our 20s we look for a mentor. We look for. I
Sure.
think men naturally, right, look for an older dude um, who we look up to, which just naturally gravitate toward uh, like a mentorship in our 20s. And then 30s, my 30s, I was very angry. I was pushing men away. 40s, I got more connected with myself. I had more
Yeah.
male friends, and now in my 50s, I love men. Like
Mhm.
I met like men to me are um, precious.
Mm.
I know their journey. I know their struggles and their pain. So when I see another man, um, I have a soft spot for men. You
Mm.
know,
I
at
think
the
we need
same
more of that.
time, I could stab a bully. At the same
Yeah.
time, when I
Right.
see a bully, oh my God,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I'm not a fighter, man, but I,
Hmm. Hmm.
yeah, I want to like, kill the guy. Like
Yeah.
I got to relax.
Well, I mean, they're kind of upsetting the apple cart, right? And sort of adhering to that sort of mammalian cliche of a human being that can't go to depth as well. Watching some interview with Dana White, and he was talking about how he has had this renaissance physically, and the pictures are there to show it. He's been working with this guy Gary Brecka, um, but the last vestige of his sort of healing and kind of righting himself is to get right with some of his emotions. And he's
Hmm.
like, that's not me. I'm not a guy. I'm not that guy. I'm not that guy. Right? Sort of waving the battle flag of shallow emotionality in men. I think this is why women tend to live longer, right?
Hmm.
Because they have a broader emotional vocabulary and a willingness to go there. And so and perhaps I've said this before, but they're willing to go there. And consequently, they don't put as much stress on their nervous systems and on their systems overall. And so you say, women live longer than men. I think this is in part why, right? Because we
Hmm.
house all of that horse shit. And then later we just call it cancer.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. When women get together, they talk about some real shit.
Yeah.
Usually.
Yeah.
Um,
Usually.
yeah, men usually don't. What's been really helpful for me is so I have all these text threads, and they're different men. So it's like I have a box of crayons, and so I have a locker room text thread, and those dudes, it's weights and dick jokes and us making fun of each other and all that. Then I have other texts from other men um, who are more like you, always deeper, and we're hitting revelations and sharing really personal stuff. So I've got like 5 or 6 different texts, some groups, some individuals, and I use that as a way throughout the week because we don't have time to always meet. Just constantly get
Touching in.
men energy injected into my life. One of the guys in my men's group, Tara, just sent me this thing on NPR. It's called "The Political Battle for the Bros," and I don't want to get political, but it was a really interesting listen about how the next generation of boys turning into men, how there's confusion and how the left and right are kind of fighting for that demographic. There's also something called the manosphere, and everyone from like Joe Rogan to Elon to like all these kind of caricatures of men now. There's an assortment of men and a confusion of kind of who to follow. What do you think about all that as far as when we were younger and it was a lot more simple. There
Well, I
was
think
Clint Eastwood, and there was Bruce Lee.
right. All those guys. Um, I think there is this bro nation that Rogan's kind of creating with,
Yeah.
the comedians that he has on,
Yeah.
and their various sort of iterations of political ideology and leanings. Um, and I think we find we can find some connection to that locker room talk.
Hmm.
And periodically you'll get one or two of them. Like, I don't know if you've seen any of the stuff that Bill Burr's been talking about lately with regard to being, he was paused on X or on Twitter, and he just lit into Elon, and is really just. I think Bill Burr is one of those guys who sort of he's holding the battle flag of freedom of speech. I think the comedians are, but there is this lack of depth that lives there too. I don't know if you've ever seen any comedians in your practice. I have, and the cliche is true. It's the the crying clown, right?
Right.
There's a lot of darkness typically.
Sure.
I don't want to paint with too broad a stroke on that, but and it's great to laugh, and it's great to excise those feelings through laughter. But if that's the only way, and actually Bill Burr was talking about it in his special recently, where he said, "Yeah, men are allowed to be mad or be fine. I'm fine. I'm fucking fine. I'm fucking fine." Right? And I think that's sort of that window of emotionality that we've talked about before. And so I think that's great for off gassing, and I think that's cool, and you can find some adherence to some of the ways some of these guys think, and some words to some of the things you're feeling. But I think that we also have to be willing to pick up, a book on Buddhism or on the Tao or Eckhart Tolle or something that's going to like engender some sense of feeling within us. I remember when this is apropos of maybe nothing, but I was being interviewed for my internship, or not my internship, to get into grad school. And I was being interviewed by the dean. And she turns to me, she said, "What book's on your bedside table right now?" And I immediately was like, do I say it or do I not? And I go, fuck it. You're gonna get to know me anyway, so I might as well tell you.
Wait, how old were you?
I don't know how old I was in 2009, so I was 39. And so I told her, I was Eat, Pray, Love.
Oh, nice.
She goes, "Isn't that a lady's book?"
Right,
so she said
right.
To me. I go, "Well, if I thought like that, wouldn't that preclude me from a great many experiences in my life?" And I honestly think that's the thing that got me in. That I was willing to read that book and kind of go there with Melissa Gilbert and listen to the emotionality and the things that she said. It deepened me a little bit. And I'm not saying that everybody has to do that, but I just think we need to paint with broader strokes.
Yeah.
And use some of these things that may be outside of our comfort zone to kind of touch into something that perhaps makes us uncomfortable.
The visual of you at 39 with Eat, Pray, Love on your nightstand is such an accurate, great snapshot of kind of who you are.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And also Eat, Pray, Love, Hero's Journey, and other stuff too.
Yeah. I mean,
it's
Eat, Pray,
interesting
Love.
also
like
that
people laugh. They're like, "Oh, Eat, Pray, Love. It's not a girly book, emotional." I mean, like that. She went through some shit, man. That was not for the faint of heart.
Dude, the success of that book is telling of how universal it is. I mean, that book has sold millions of copies. Like that book also turned into a movie. And I mean,
made her wildly famous, wildly wealthy. But the thing is she was actually vulnerable. She wasn't doing what we see a lot of people doing, which is vulnerability for vulnerability's sake, because now vulnerability is a thing that everyone's doing on fucking Instagram and all that other shit. It's
also a very talented writer.
Also a very talented writer.
Very talented. Yeah. But you're right, man. Vulnerability. You know what's interesting is because for her it was Bali, but in a way, Eat, Pray, Love, you and I are going through kind of our version of that. I know I am. And instead of Bali, it's Costa Rica. But
that's right.
And instead of, I forgot what she was doing in the, she was salsa dancing and doing all that. For me, maybe me, it'll be taking up surfing and getting on a scooter. But for me, once our house burned down, there's a call to adventure that we are answering. and that's going to lead to our own version of Eat, Pray, Love.
Mm.
And it seems like you're on that journey as well in your own version of that. You guys moving to
It was
Costa
New Year.
Rica
Well,
with the kids.
for her it was Italy, India, Bali.
Oh, that's right.
For us it was the East Village of New York, Charleston, South Carolina, and now Costa Rica.
Yes,
Uh,
yes.
but yeah, it is sort of us. But each one of those places had its own challenges for her, and each one of those places had its own challenges for us. And you know, each in this place will have its version of challenge for you that will
Oh, yeah.
bring up so much, and it's like one of the questions I've never really gotten a chance to ask you is like, how have you dealt with your house burning down? How have you moved through that?
There's a there's a chapter that I just finished. It's called "Then the Tears Came,"
Mm-hmm.
and I've I've been able to spot all the silver linings, almost too much, where I think people are annoyed. Like, John, are you actually glad your house burned down? What's going on? But there was a moment I had when we were staying at Justin's house. I think I told you guys. I don't remember if I told you, but
yeah, you told me about it. But yeah,
the guys left, and one of the guys said, "Yeah, we gotta get going home."
Mm-hmm.
And on home, dude, I've never cried that hard in my life. It was very like my body started shaking, and I was like, "What's going on?" And then just like sobbing, and I had to grab Vanessa. I couldn't even stand up, and Logan had to turn her head because she's never seen her dad this way. But there was a huge release in that, and my only explanation was that was about more than just a house burning down. I think that was the accumulation of a lot of things I've been suppressing, you know.
And did you not know it?
Even if you follow that string down, even what I shared with you and Ashley about being left in Korea for a year when I was 3, things
Yeah.
that maybe have been stored in my body that I was not even aware of.
Mm-hmm.
I've only cried that hard one other time, and that was after my divorce, sitting in a rented room,
Mm-hmm.
asking my roommate to turn down George Michael, the song Last Christmas, because Christmas was everything when I was married.
Mm-hmm.
I said, please turn it down. It's Christmas time. I just got divorced. He turned it up. The fucker turned it up. And I remember I remember feeling and I remember I was crying so hard I couldn't breathe. Like, when you laugh so hard that you have to stop because now your stomach hurts. I was crying so hard I had to stop because I couldn't breathe. And I shed those tears.
Are you feeling any of that right now?
No, I don't feel that.
When you're
And
talking about the tears?
I don't think it's denial, man. I mean, it could be. I just feel like I needed to let it out. I did it over at Justin's house with all those dudes. And now I'm excited. I'm excited. I just got this tattoo, 51. It says Act 2.
Right on.
And fucking Vanessa says, John, shouldn't it be Act 3? I was like, I'm not putting Act 3. Act 3 is the conclusion. What are you talking about?
I heard you say the afternoon of our lives. You said the afternoon of our lives. I was like, I'll take that.
It's just more romantic and nice.
Tell her to settle down.
Tell her to settle down, exactly. Because she was like, well, Act 2 would have been your divorce. It should be Act 3. I was like, no, I'm not putting Act. I should just say final credits then. Rolling credits, 51. But anyway, I put Act 2, and I'm excited about my Act 2. I'm excited about life in my 50s. I feel like I have the tools. I don't know if you do, where I actually am able to be grateful. My lenses have changed. I'm not chasing the big shiny things anymore. I still want things. I'm still a gearhead. I still want, toys and stuff, but, and I'm still very ambitious, but they don't define me, and I don't drown in them. I don't get depressed because something hasn't come, all that stuff. So
can I be transparent? And obviously you get to push pause and say, I don't want to share that. But I was concerned that you were bypassing in this whole process.
Yeah, I mean, I think that also may be happening. I don't know. And also, how would I know if I know?
Well,
Do you know what I'm
speaking
saying?
to like that's why I asked the question, because we were talking a little bit, and then that happened, and I didn't even know it happened, and then I wrote you, and you're like, "Oh, thanks, man." And then I said, "Hey, if you ever need anything, I'm here. It doesn't have to be a therapy session. No, just want to let you know."
Yeah.
And I was sort of watching you, and then we started doing this, and I didn't really ask about it. I probably should have. And I saw you kind of like doing content and being vulnerable on there. But I was sitting there wondering, and then when you guys told that story over dinner of sobbing, I was like, I wonder if he wasn't bypassing, and were you doing the thing that we're talking about, which is not even really knowing that you need to go to depth.
Yeah.
And obviously digging. I saw one post where you were like, I'm getting socks and underwear. And I'm like, okay, well, that's where he is. He says that's what it's come down to. It's come down to socks and underwear. And I was like, holy shit.
A practical checking off list.
Yeah. I mean, it blew me away. I mean, how that's where it was. And so I was like, okay, I'm just going to leave him alone. He'll talk about it whenever he wants to. But we've never really talked about what that was for you and what you did with that. And I guess it all came out in at Justin's house that night.
I mean, maybe part of it, but I appreciate you asking, man. And I'm trying to be
I'm putting you on the spot, and I don't want to do that to you unless you're okay with it.
No, of course I am. It wasn't just a house; it was a home. And
yeah, that's my point.
Yeah, and not only was it just also a home, but it was also tied to it was a structural proof that I had done something with my life, and someone who feels like the almost guy, someone who feels like a failed screenwriter who's never made it. The house was proof that I owned a piece of land. When my dad once said, when I bought the condo, that you bought air. And so it represented me finally swimming to the island, kind of thing. So losing that, yeah, man, it was crushing. And maybe I am in denial, and maybe because grief is abstract. Maybe I will have moments when I'm thinking about whatever it is, the ice plunge. What's that?
Can I tell you why I'm a little concerned about you?
Shit. Hey, I didn't know this episode was turning into an intervention, but hey, by the way, guys, Lair was actually technically on paper, he was my therapist. I saw him many times. And then before we started to do this,
John, you did not see me many times.
Okay, I saw him once. I saw him for 30 minutes.
3 times. I think maybe 4.
Hey, 3 is many. It's not a couple.
Well, you know how therapy works. 3 sessions is not.
There's nothing.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing, which kind of sucks is because we'll be moving down there most likely, maybe even being neighbors.
Yeah.
Our relationship is going to be different.
Yeah.
We could still talk about deep shit.
I don't want to put any pressure on it. Okay, I'm not talking.
I just love that I'm not going to get an invoice anymore. That's what I.
Will you be my friend? Will you be my friend?
I'll be your friend. Free therapy.
No, this is just something to think about. Like this is not like digging into you too much, but it's like you are the resident expert, and like literally hundreds of thousands of people look to you, and so it's easy for us to go to I'm showing vulnerability, but I'm showing it from that expert position. I've already processed it, and I was privy to the time frame, and I'm like, how do you process?
Yeah,
my dad told me I bought air, and I finally bought legit land.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And so I was just concerned, and so this is the example of a type of conversation I would like more men to be open to, right? Like, well, we don't have to be puddles on the floor. But it's real. It's real.
It is real, man. It is. Sometimes I'll, when I'm doing bedtime, I'll pull up old videos with Logan, and then I'll come across something where we're just doing something in the house, wrestling on the bed, playing, keepy uppy in the living room, dancing, being stupid. And those moments hit.
Yeah. I think about that for you. I've seen some of those, videos of the house, and I'm just like, fuck.
Yeah. And you may be right. Sure. I may be it was only 2 months, like 8 weeks ago.
That's my point. Like,
yeah.
I mean, I know you're a superstar, but Jesus Christ, man. Like, when you think about the what happened in those walls and what all that meant, and it's like you said, it's like I didn't expect to fall in love with Altadena, but fucking Altadena is awesome. Yeah. And you talk about the community you lost out there too. It's holy shit. And so, that's the part that concerned me, that we can very quickly turn that into content and turn this into, well, as you said, people got annoyed because you were looking at the silver linings. And I think that's important, and we need to do that. We absolutely need to do that. And we can't be afraid of process of these, especially these big life events. And this was a big one for you.
No, one of the biggest. I mean, you're absolutely right, and I wonder if I'm so conditioned to like turn everything into an episode, right?
Mm-hmm.
To quote unquote document my story.
Yep.
Since I've been doing it since 15,
Dude,
20 years.
You were the smartest person on the block when you started, because I think about that all the time. And so you made this a part of who you are. Like you said this to me before.
It's knee jerk. It's default. It's all I know. It's the track that I laid back when I was listening to Wayne Dyer drinking styrofoam coffee post divorce. I had nothing. So I feel like I turned a tragedy into, it's like a producer that says, it's sad that happened, but oh my God, we're going to get great footage.
That's you.
Exactly. And I literally did. I was, dude. So check this out. I when we went to the house, the moment the fucking, I saw for the first time the house was gone. And George, our neighbor, was on his knees crying hysterically.
Oh my God.
Dude, I pulled out my phone.
Yeah.
And I had weird thoughts about this, because I was like, what are you doing, dude? Your house is gone. Yeah. You're going to have to tell your wife and kid your house. You're looking at ashes. Put your phone away. So there was that side. And then there was this other side. And, thank God Vanessa was there, because if Vanessa was there, she'd be like, what the fuck are you doing? Yeah. There was this other side. And this was the producer, the content creator, the person who saw an opportunity in the tragedy. I pulled out my phone and I started recording. And what's funny about this is I'm crying. I'm like crying, but I'm fucking recording this.
Yeah.
And so there, visually you see the conflict between John Kim, the person who is sad, and then the John Kim, the artist, who's trying to make a video.
What I think you speak to something that's innate within men, right? Like there is this expectation that, and it comes not just from the outside, it comes from the inside too, that we are going to be some version of, maybe not the producer, but the one who's going to, be that hero's journey, be the hero in that journey, and to do the thing that needs to get done. And then maybe I'm not making the right point, but like there you are going, okay, well here's content that needs to be made. Here, people need to see this, but you're bypassing perhaps in that moment that, like, I am also need to recognize that my house is gone, that I have to deliver this. George is over here crying, and I'm doing this other thing. You go into this other part of yourself, and I think it precludes you in that particular case from perhaps processing the things that need to be processed.
Yeah. I mean, you're absolutely right. I couldn't get George back in the car because he was on his knees, and I'm filming this shit,
Yeah.
And so visually, I can't deny that. There's something about that is lined with possible denial. And you're right, man. Maybe that's how I'm able to survive this, is to log it in as well. Whether I call it a silver lining, but log it in as let's keep jumping on these vines so we don't go into the quicksand. But the quicksand may not be depression. It might be grief. And maybe I need to sit in the quicksand for a while. Maybe I need to close the door, turn the phone off.
I think there's a fuck ton of gold in that grief. I really do.
Well, maybe it's not quicksand then. Maybe it's something else.
It is. I think it is something else. It's your humanity. It's your soul. It's your intrinsic goodness that comes out in that authenticity, that reality of, like, this is okay. It's like when my boys see me tear up, they gave me a card today, immediately made me tear up. And they're both just like, looking at me. Is this okay? How do we, you could see them taking notes. Like, how do men do this? Do we do this? Yeah. Desperately trying to raise two sensitive but strong men in the world.
Yeah.
And I'm constantly apologizing to them because I don't know that they are going to feel an adherence to the body of men that are going to be out there with them. Someone asked me the other day, they said, "You homeschool your kids. Aren't you worried about socialization?" I said, "Yeah, I'm worried about my kids socializing with your kids
Mhm.
because I see
Right.
what we're doing, what the general population looks like. Um, and I desperately want for these boys to be able to do both, to do what you
Yeah.
and I are doing right now and feel comfortable doing it.
Yeah, it's like it's almost like you wanna protect them, but also they have to be out in the world too. So it's like this, right? You can't protect them too much because
No,
then yeah.
no, that's why we train Muay Thai 3 to 5 days a week.
Hey, if you're listening, and well, obviously you're listening, if you are especially a man, what just happened uh, in the last 50 minutes is actually what is prescribed. So what I mean by that is Laird and I having an honest conversation, him also checking me on some shit, me being open to it.
Yeah,
Um,
that's the big.
you, as you're listening, you could tell, right? Like this is what uh, we are describing as the space that's needed. I mean, for all humans, but especially men.
Mm-hmm.
And then this expands me, right? This is going to get me to think.
Me
Um,
too.
yeah, we're dominoes in each
Mm-hmm.
other's, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it's all, you know, and listen, it's not about answers. It's about questions. It's about unearthing things, which is what therapy is about. And
It's about
even this
witnessing.
conversation, very therapeutic.
Yeah, witnessing, seeing,
Witnessing.
understanding, being seen.
Yeah.
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 I mean, what you did today in this was incredibly heroic, incredibly strong. It helps to redefine strength in men where you could sit there and kind of like, oh, okay, let's take a scalpel to some of my shit. Open up your heart and kind of go, yeah, no, maybe this is in there rather than going, all right, dude, push pause. Let's restart the recording over again. You could have done that
No.
and you didn't.
Yeah.
It's your content guy again, but let's not talk about that later.
Yeah. But that's really interesting. What you shed light on is, you know, for someone who's been doing this for so long, is the content guy now the shadow guy?
Mm-hmm.
Is that the pseudo self? And are you now cock blocking your solid self because you are seeing everything through a camera lens or a microphone?
Mm-hmm.
And yes, that can be empowering and artistic, but that also can be dehumanizing, is what you're saying.
Well, it all
And
it
all,
just it's one of those things that we have to watch it, right? It's like when we finally recognize our ego and how ego based we are, and we try to slay the ego, right? And so maybe we get good at sort of like checking our ego and keeping our ego in check, but then we start getting a lot of validation egoically for being less egoic. It's kind of
yeah,
that, you kind of always have to watch it and keep an eye on it and ask like, okay, so what am I doing and why am I doing it?
I love it, man. And you know what's kind of funny in how the universe works? So this whole story, my
Mm-hmm.
burning down the house, the memoir, the you
Mm-hmm.
know the stuff that happened with Justin and Emily Baldani, all the stuff, moving to Costa Rica. Um, it might turn out. It might. I don't know yet. We'll see. But it might be a documentary film, which is not going to help.
It's going to
Which is
bring you
not
all
going
the
to
way
help
back
me.
around. Yeah.
Yeah, and so we'll see if that actually happens. But I might be rolling into Costa Rica with a with a
With a
film
film
crew.
crew? Oh, Jesus Christ. Don't tell my
But
wife we'll never see her again.
that definitely is not going to help what we're talking about here, which is for John to put the camera down. You know,
Well, John,
um,
you're so willing to check yourself and you're willing to be honest and go, oh, I don't have to be the resident expert that like, when you're checking your shadow and you're asking yourself those tough questions, it's like you don't have to really worry about it. It's just got to make sure you're I think we all have to make sure we're asking those questions of ourselves.
yeah,
Not
no, I think
afraid to do that.
that's right, but I think that's what every man needs is someone else to see something that they may not see, present it in a way where it's more curious than pointing fingers, and you don't have to have answers, right? So just the fact that you pointed something out is great, man. That can lead to revelations and all sorts of stuff.
Right.
I do agree with you that from what I'm experiencing around me and from how I'm taking this,
Mm-hmm.
there could be something in this where I am bypassing or uh, uh, in denial or not grieving. Um, for sure, for sure. I can't not say that that's true because people around me are very surprised that, like you, like
Yeah.
dude, 8 weeks ago you lost your house and
How
you're
are you
like
this okay?
smiling and now,
How are you this okay?
yeah, how are
Yeah.
you this okay?
How are you?
Yeah.
How are you this okay? And you get busy being busy because that feels like an explosion of energy rather than sadness, which can feel like an implosion or a collapse. No one wants to feel that.
Well, okay. So part of why I think I'm a little bit okay is because of things that have lined up that have like saved us, like
Yeah,
insurance money kicking
sure,
in,
sure.
friends offering homes. There has been stuff like that, but they're all just kind of on paper. You're right as far as have I really grieved this or started to? I don't know.
Yeah.
And what's so here's the other thing. New chapter in my book.
Mm.
John bypassing. Not going to talk about that. You just gave me another chapter.
All
See.
right. See, there it is. Happy to help. Let me know if I can
Oh
do
man.
anything else.
Anyway,
All right.
Lair and I were going to do a lot more things because I will be closer to him,
That's
literally,
right.
hopefully in a few
Yeah.
months. And
Yeah. Hopefully, just down the street.
yeah, and it's hard for me to put the camera down. So I also have enjoyed these conversations, and also these episodes have been really popular. If you haven't heard the other four, go check those out. And until next time, this
Right.
concludes our series of The Unfinished Man. And Lair, thanks for these conversations. I don't even feel like we're recording. I just feel like we're just hanging out,
Just
which is
shooting
great.
the shit.
Yeah.
I really appreciate the opportunity to sit and chat with you anytime. And so, again, this has been something I've looked forward to, something I've loved doing. And yeah, it's been a real pleasure, John. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, everyone. Be well.